Hello, everyone, and welcome. It's going to be another programming today. Day today. Should be interesting. I have ideas, and they're going to work. It'll be great. It does mean we'll be rewriting some stuff. Not necessarily, we're not dealing with sorcery this time. Hopefully what we set up will make sorcery easier. But before we get into that, let's check in with the kitties. We do have Ember on my shoulder, Mason on the bed, Sherbet and Sammy MIA. Molly is looking for something near the food dish. With my luck, they've managed to wedge some wet food there in the gap. We'll see. Molly is one of the two heavy scratchers. Sammy is the other. They have done great damage to some of the infrastructure periodically. Like how she just decided that she needed to lean over and grab a kibble. Oh, but yeah. Code. So, last time we had a bit of a kind of review to figure out what we have, like, where we are. It is not a... The goal was not a full, like, planning where we are, but it was to refresh what the actual code flow is. What we're up to and where might we improve things. And one of the big places that we've been having some difficulties is the physics handling. That was the last place that we got stuck, and we frequently get stuck here. Our game is targeting having a lot of things in play at once, things with fiddly behaviors. So we can't use a lot of the shortcuts that you can in things like bullet hells, since the projectiles do not have a very fixed algorithmic path. Given a starting point and time, we aren't able to just calculate exactly where they are on the fly at any moment using a given vector. Instead, what we have to do is frame by frame process what they're going to do, because it could wildly change moment to moment. This means that movement is expensive computationally, but additionally that we have to do collision detection, like full collision detection. Does this sphere bump this sphere? Kind of collision detection constantly. We have gone through lots of iterations for how it can work. Currently, well, it ultimately doesn't matter exactly how we're doing it, but a couple of the methods would benefit from having a delay before we check again. The current one, GPU shaders, shaders, computation shaders to be specific here, need a delay. They need some time to work, because if I try to immediately get results, then it has to sync up and grab those results. Now, it's supposed to wait until it's done and then proceed with the rest of the code, which would cause a bit of a lurch since we are requiring the GPU to sync back up with the CPU. That's not good by itself, but from what I have discovered, it don't do that. Instead, it maybe it gives it a little more time to finish up, but it just truncates it. In a similar vein, if we take too long in the processing, it just bails on it and just stops it. This is also bad. it makes sense that it does that it ends processes early, but we don't know that's why it happened. I can think of ways that we could detect that it happened, but it's not really a good position to be in because things be broken, and the best we could hope for is to restart them in that scenario, which will take us longer, and it ruins the whole point. So we've been trying to have ways to get that delay in here. And we set up some event infrastructure, and we flow through it, and we ensure that there is another step that happens before we sync up the rendering device. Hooray! This part needs to get burned down and redone because the way we tried to do it does not work, and that's not good. Well, it doesn't accomplish what we set out to do with it, and leaving it there creates a... I mean, we could say it's tech debt, but it creates a vulnerable spot, a place that code could rot later. And we can't have that. Solo project that has to largely stay inside of my head or in documents that I write, which might as well be inside of my head because they will be indecipherable within a couple of days. Tops. Anybody else run into that? Where you are capable of taking copious notes, but even like moments after you write the note becomes arcane sigils. I ran into that in academic settings very frequently. Is very, very densely written, very I would say robust notes. But the ability to parse them afterwards wasn't very good. But I found that if I didn't take the notes, then I wouldn't absorb the information as well. So the act of transcribing it to paper was a memorization aid at the time, but that it was less useful afterwards. Hey there, Key. Down a little bit. I do love my canon music, but hey there, Poshing. Not Java. Close. Similar like layer of programming. This is C#, but it do indeed look a lot like Java. Does not change the situation, yeah. Spent a bit of yesterday doing a little bit of research to make sure. This will mean that we're probably going to have gaming the rest of the week. But did a little research yesterday, looking at ways that we can accomplish some changes to make that delay cleaner. Now, one of the ways that I had been thinking was a finite state machine kind of structure where we have kind of a contained entity that handles the flow of code. I say this much time has passed, do your thing. And within its black box, it does whatever checks it needs to accomplish the current phase of execution. And then it either hands it off to another entity or halts and is good and is waiting for the next time it comes around. This could work for what we're doing because we could just have physics essentially say, okay, I started and I'm going to sit here and wait until I'm ready to go again. This would be fine, but state machines can run into the problem that most of their logic the kind of chain of control is baked into the code for them. So when a state machine needs to hand off, it needs to, within it, know what the handoff point is. Or we have to have surrounding logic know what the next handoff is in that specific circumstance. when you have a small chain of events, that's not really a big deal. Hopefully, the busyness will pay off, Posh. Hopefully. But the difficulty is I know how I code and I know what I've coded so far. Let's pull that open here. Interesting. Window, do I have my doc list here? Where did my solution explorer go? Great. Where are you hiding it? Not servers, solution. There we go. So this is collapsed view, but this is all the code we have written so far. I know how things flow here in general. That was one of the things we spent the last stream doing. But if I set it up such that a structure can get a little too opaque too easily, then I'm going to make it worse. So looking into alternatives, there is kind of a sibling structure to the state machines. That have, again, similar purpose, but they are broken into pieces that are generally more atomic. And their nature is, as you are constructing it, you are essentially describing the logic of the flow. It's something that can very easily be turned into a graph that is visible both in the program or in documentation. And that's good. That is a thing that we want. When we started this project, Posh, we started purely in the Godot editor. We started by trying to use GD script, the Godot level scripting language. But requirements of the program rapidly exceeded our ability to use that efficiently. And that progressed into further and further shifting into the C# side. Now almost the entirety of the program is orchestrated on the C# side, with Godot handling mostly physics and the heartbeat of the program. It will also be critical with words and things, like menu swapping and such. There, we'll show. We're making a game. It is Bullet Heaven Like, which is apparently the game descriptor tag that Steam has settled on, is Bullet Heaven, which I prefer over the other options. But, you know, interspace, enemy spawn, do not let enemies touch you, remove enemies with copious weaponry. Yeah, Bullet Heaven is like Vampire Survivors. It's generally the swarm of bullets is coming from you, and it is about dodging enemies and removing the bulk of the enemies, as opposed to the bulk of the operation being avoiding the threat of the enemies being the thing. Like, normally it's the shots of the enemies. You are weaving between bullets, especially in boss fights. In the standard Bullet Heaven, in your basic Bullet Heaven kind of thing, it is much more avoiding piles of enemies. What we're getting, let's see, you're probably seeing it at about 60. Our frames per second currently is about 100. So there is going to be a disjoint in the FPS. We'll also get hitches. That's one of the things that I want to do, is get the frames to be a little more stable. We can make it really bad. This is one of the reasons that we were stuck on physics for so long here. is one, we were shooting for numbers that we don't necessarily need to hit. I would still like to be able to hit these sort of numbers. There's currently 4,500, 5,000 of those little mice on screen right now. All of them are individuals. All of them move in their own way. They are all sharing the same sort of behavior pattern, so they move very similarly, but every one of them could have its own movement. We can make that more apparent by adding a random direction at the end of their movement. But this is about 7,000 things now. Frames per second has dropped to 20. The game world seems to move slowly because the game only moves in increments of 60ths of a second. So no matter how fast or slow the game works, the simulation, the way that things move, is only calculated in fractions of 1/60th. Generally, the rendering is not so much of an issue. If we remove collision, things move very quickly comparatively. But yeah, about 7,000 little bullets going here right now. This is what we want to be able to improve. Because not only are we dealing with this part of the logic where we have so many things that might bump into enemies, we also need to deal with the fact that they might bump into walls. And that's a whole extra layer of calculation that we need to be accounting for. And if we don't have time just based on the physics of it, oh yeah, those bullets only last about 10 seconds. They also go away if they get too far from you. In a practical sense, based on what I was saying, they last 600 ticks of the engine. They will go away at that point. But if they're being generated at about 3 to the 5th or 6th per second, then there tends to be a lot of them at any given moment. Will that be an actual gameplay? No. But that's part of why we moved the goalpost down last time, is we reviewed what we were targeting as far as gameplay and set the bar lower. So if we can hit about 3,000 while keeping maximum FPS, that 60 to 120 kind of range, without dipping below, we're in good shape. 3,000 across all enemies and bullets on screen. Okay. But again, one of the things that we're facing is this break. The alternative to like finite state machines and similar that I was looking at is a behavior tree, which is largely just a decision tree. It's a pattern that is used for like actor or entity AI. Thank you for the follow there, Posh. And again, it's a decision tree. It is, you move through the tree depth first, and when you encounter an action, that action either ends the processing, lets it continue for whatever reason. It might skip an action, it might perform that action and then say, okay, keep going. You might also have actions that say, I'm still working. Those kind of things. What we'd be looking at in this case is physics is an early check. And if physics is still running, we don't do things like world simulation. We might still allow some of the rendering to continue or not, but this would create a flow in which we are defining, okay, first thing, check this. If this doesn't work, continue along, and we'd be building that out of an object infrastructure. So we no longer have switch statements upon switch statements upon switch statements. We have avoided some of that, but in doing so, I think we have kind of scattered some of the logic into trickier spots to find. Like, some of these event handlers only exist to accomplish minor things. Let's see if I can find that. Something we built last time. Open folder. Over here. Yeah, here we go. So like world start step is for entity manager. Entity manager is the only one that uses world start step. World time passed, bit of a workhorse, like a lot happens here. World steps done. Only the shader collision manager uses this step. So these kind of things are things that would be discrete actions. What does this action do? It calls the physics manager, you know? That is a possibility, Posh. We could do things like mush entities together, but the way the engine works, like one of the core concepts of the game, let's pull that up here, that makes things complicated is whenever one of these is spawned, it does its own thing. If it touches you, it emits its own events. So while for some projectiles, it might make sense that they merge, there's nothing that says one of those projectiles doesn't have something special about it that is different than the others that wasn't true until the projectile was in the air. So it's not at the moment that I spawned it, it's while it is moving around, something could change. Some of those things are going to be like timer based, like here, we're going to shoot 3 per second, but after 3 seconds, it splits in 3. So we have 1, 2, 3, and after 3 seconds, they will split into a fan of 3. There could be any number of other operations that are happening during this, like this will make them bounce off of a target when they hit it. But the fact that they bounced is intrinsic to one of them. In fact, they won't bounce until 3 seconds have passed, actually. So we can see if it goes 1, 2, 3 and they hit, then they won't bounce. But as soon as they split into 3, they can bounce off. Those are the things that make it harder for them to merge, because if, say, I had 10 projectiles and suddenly they need to all move in random directions, but I have squished them together, do I need to then split it back apart? That kind of thing. I am the designer of this. I can make that decision. But one of the decisions would be, well, what if I don't make it, generate 7,000 projectiles in short order? That is also an option. We are witnessing one of the problems that can happen, and that's that currently part of the physics is saying, can you move? Can you keep moving? And if things go just wrong, or just right, depending on how you look at it, enemies can slide through walls. That is something we can correct, but I want to get this kind of handling loop done properly. But that's why we don't merge them together. Ideally, we don't get into circumstances where this can go critical too easily. if we have performance running such that I can have 2,000 or 3,000 things on the screen, then that's plenty. Because that is usually an end state. Either the player is winning super hard or the player is about to lose. If the player reaches a point where they are winning so hard that they're putting 3,000 things on screen and just purging all of the enemies in one go, I don't really care that performance dips down to like 30 frames a second or something. If there are so many enemies that the entire screen is full of enemies, then you're about to lose. And it's okay if for a brief period, the game dips in performance. I mean, some of this programming stuff that we're running into is going to be a skill issue. It is something that you kind of have to accept. You're going to encounter stuff that you don't know how to fix. From a gameplay perspective, might be. You might have made weapon composition choices that are bad. Ow. Ah, my bones. Okay. So we want to start looking at a decision tree. To start taking some of these things that are just do this one thing and change it into a atomic action. Something that when it is triggered, it does that one thing. This simplifies some of the code flow. One moment. Okay, hopefully that'll slow that down. I mean, yeah, that's kind of what we're looking at right now. Is we're looking at both buffering against the case that will damage like the utility of the program, but also making it so that we have wiggle room. Again, if we can get it to where we can have like 2,000 to 3,000 things on screen and have no performance issues, that means if it goes over that, we still don't have critical performance issues. If we decide we want to make it flashier and add some particles or whatnot, we have breathing room for it. Because you're very unlikely to have 2,000 or 3,000 things on screen, either in a meaningful way or for very long. Like when I'm playing Vampire Survivors and I get to the point where the entire screen is just pure death for the enemy, and I encounter things like I can run through walls, it doesn't really matter. Steam name? But that's part of the reason is it's okay that the player goes out of control, but I don't want the game to break. Like I don't want to cause a crash or something. As long as it doesn't crash or grind to what amounts to a non-responsive halt, we're good. I mean, my handle on all platforms that I am active on is newtmechanist. Yeah. It's if we can avoid the PowerPoint slideshow, things are fine. Generally with capitals, 2 words. If you're talking about the title of the game, then there isn't one yet. I only have a project title. Words and things. And stuff. So what we need to start with is that we have the idea of the core tree. Yep, right there. That is the kind of project title. For the period where this style of game was just exploding as far as people dumping them into the Steam shop, a vast majority of them had survivors in the title. That is correct, Poshington. There is lore in the channel that derives from a Noida mod that we made. Well, that I made for the purposes of the stream some time ago. So this little guy here and a lot of the concepts in it are from that mod. This is a catbot, eventually a Nyanite. So in terms of the performance, how I said, I don't mind if the player goes out of control as long as the game doesn't crash. In the Noida mod, one of the things that I did was strip out elements of the processing in the game that really bogged things down. No, I am a nanotype. I am the new model. I'm the prototype of the new model line. Through completely legitimate and corporate consensual means, I have been given control of the Catbot factory and operate it in an entirely safe and business-oriented fashion. Everything's on the up and up here. The press coverage about the factory that uses terms like bunker and weaponized and localized earthquakes are entirely speculative and likely fake news. Okay, so we need an object that is... So we need a root node type. And its whole existence is to run and to return a result. That is, you tell it to do its thing, and it tells you... I don't recall ever encountering a description of why they chose C# for the structure. Perhaps, I believe one of the speculations that I have seen, and again, I don't know what's true in this scenario, haven't looked it up really, is that the prior incarnation, you had C and then you had C++. Yes, and then you have C++++, which, if you squish them all together, looks like a hash sign. I don't know if that's true, but that is a possibility. It is made that much more opaque by the fact that they use the term sharp, which is a music term in this case, instead of pound or hash or any of the other like text usages. Let's see. So we can run the thing. We can return a result. I don't know. C can get pretty exciting if you don't know what you're doing at any given moment. Always tell folks I would never advise somebody to learn to program in C or C++, but I would always advise somebody to look into discussions of coding requirements and like basic practices in C and C++, because there's a lot of things in like C# and Java and all of these other languages that are more commonplace that they're effectively hiding all of that C from you, stuff from you. I don't want to have to deal with that stuff. The fact that it's hiding that stuff for me is good. It is very good. I don't want to have to manually allocate memory unless I absolutely have to. I had enough segment faults when I was learning to program. Thank you very much. Pointer manipulation, all of that stuff. Yes, it is powerful, and you can do dark and terrible things and unleash, the most evil of sorceries if you do that kind of stuff well. But it is also very easy to do it badly. And if you do it badly, it is the kind of thing that is really hard to track down properly. So again, I don't advise people to learn to code in those languages, but looking up like books and similar that talk about low-level stuff that you have to do to, say, like make an array or a list or similar in C++ can give you insight into what's going on in the background and why particular things behave the way they do. Okay, let's see. We have a result of nothing. A pointer to a pointer to a pointer to a function that creates another pointer to a memory location. Adjust that memory location by a passed-in variable and then returns an address of a location that you are meant to treat as an array of a different data type than what was initially allocated. Now, I say that I would advise people to avoid it, but in this same stream, I am doing things. Let me see if I can find it. Where are you hiding? There we go. But I'm doing things like this, which is the compute shader that handles collision. And to properly interact with the compute shader that handles collision, we are doing things like this, where we take an array of values and we create what amounts to a pointer to it that says this is a data structure This is a span of data that I want you to treat as if it were a span of a different type of data. So in this case, I'm taking bytes, treat them as if they're unsigned integers. Can that go wrong? Very wrong. But by doing it this way, I don't have to transcribe an array of bytes into an array of uints. And similarly throughout this, this is just a memory overlay to tell the generation of the code treat this differently, but it is the same location in memory. But yeah, sorcery. Okay, so we had did nothing, skipped. We had okay. So didn't do anything is one relevant path. So if in the tree we have a pathway that we look at and the code executes and says, yeah, nothing happens here. In general, that means move along. Then we have something happened. If something happened, either the executing code says that's nice and moves along, or it stops there. There's also still working, so it's busy in some fashion. So whatever we told it to do is still happening. In the case of our physics, that is something that we would expect to happen. It's if I call into the tree, the first thing that would happen, sorry, is that we would begin the physics process. If I call into it again, after that, it is possible that it would still be busy, that there is something we're still waiting on. One of the pathways towards handling the compute shaders would make that a true statement, would make that a known thing, is that we run this and beverage. We run this code and we are waiting for callback functions to fire. Until all the callbacks have fired, we're not done yet. So that would be one way to go about it. And it would mean that the next time we come into the function, if we check and say, is physics done yet? It is possible that it repeatedly is saying no and just keeping itself flagged as busy. And as far as the world simulation loop is concerned, everything is still waiting on that. We do not continue the simulation processing until physics can be handled. Does something run into something else? So I don't know that we need stop or don't stop, because that's going to be the responsibility of the caller. The one that says, okay, this is a thing that could happen, go for it. So the flow here is effectively determine what is about to happen, calculate what that happening does. So how should you move? Okay, where would you move? make that occur, calculate the ramifications of that. So, do you run into stuff? Process those ramifications. And then we circle around and do that again. So if we're waiting for physics, ideally, we would not be doing another simulation step. We would be setting that aside. Rendering would be happening on a different pace entirely. That is something that could happen concurrently to physics, but it might just as well sit in a steady state. The world's visuals don't update until simulation happens again. So until we do a frame, we don't update a frame visually. That becomes an option in this system. Currently, we just create Godot level sprites and let it do its thing. So while the game is paused, the sprites still go through their idle animation. But pausing is one of those aspects. Frequently Posh, there are other folks. There's 2 YouTube streams and the Twitch stream. So if it seems like I'm talking to somebody who you can't see in chat, that's probably why. Supposedly, YouTube is going to be making it so that I can merge the chats from a tall format and a wide format, and the viewer is able to choose how they see the stream. Logistics-wise, that is fantastic, and I look forward to it. But I'm also not holding my breath for it because they've been working on that feature for a little bit. We don't have chat visible because it's a hassle. Hello, Yusuf. Welcome. Okay, so if we have a root node type and we have an interface for do the thing, like, execute this node, and it returns a result. I am Yosef, I am. Thus the avatar. Then we can start making subtypes, and the subtypes are largely going to be how they're set up. So some of them are going to be able to have lists of children. So these are our decision nodes. And those are going to be your one or all, or, one or all of these. So you have like a priority list and you say go from left to right until one of them indicates a non-skip. So as soon as one of them did something or is doing something, stop. Then there is also go through these and execute all of them. Do not care what they did. Just report back that either nothing happened, something happened, or something is happening. So just propagate the results up. Then you'll have conditionals that are you cannot get past this conditional without this being true. So we could have where when we're running physics, we aren't having a method inside of the physics server that says, okay, I was told to do this, but first I will check if this is true. We could have that check if this is true be a conditional node. And that conditional node is something that we could use elsewhere. Look at this. Is this the case? Is physics running? We could check and see, is physics running? If it is, proceed. If it is or is not, proceed, kind of thing. For the time being, we can probably skip those. But they amount to, they are still a node. So we would have root into list types. Those have a collection of nodes. So there's two types. We either have, when we have a list, it's we are iterating through them in order, and we either stop when the first one is done or we just do all of them. Those would be the two general types of list. Then we would have actions, which are just do a thing. All right, no luck. Have fun. I generally prefer androgynous, as the term you propose currently has baggage. There are implications and the like that go with that. But, there's nothing but metal plates here. I do. Hello, Mio. I appreciate the subscription and welcome. A non-trivial number of people do. For the most part, if you never see anybody from from below the bust line or the belly line, then the idea that there is like art-wise nothing down there, it kind of makes sense. Economically, it is a big difference as far as doing the art and connecting the whole thing. There's Live 2D has a lot of moving parts. Lots and lots and lots of moving parts. I think, for example, the heart. Yeah. My heart there. There are at least At least 8 to 9 parts in there. As far as Live 2D is concerned, it is very similar to fully texturing and rigging a 3D model. It's each thing that you see is generally its own part. So it's not just drawing a picture. It is drawing that picture, but also having layers so that they can be adjusted and moved to create the illusion of 3 dimensions. Live 2D isn't cheap. But we don't discuss particular numbers. All right, so conditionals are something that I think we will eventually approach because that is another thing that keeps it very atomic. I don't know if we're going to hit those today, but I like the idea of them. A lot of them will be very specific. But I think that's okay because for the most part, we're not looking for check this and get this result. It is... I think, Posh, generally what you're dealing with... Well, for those that are curious, assume that a character can be just about any amount, but if you're looking at somebody who is ready, that is making something ready for Live 2D, you should probably look at 100 and above. Because again, it's not just making one picture, it is taking that picture and breaking it into parts that would normally not be visible in a standard drawing. Additionally, then you also have to have the model rigged, and the complexity of the art, the types of movement, all of that stuff adds to that. And it can be interesting if you look up people doing Live 2D and similar. It is an interesting process. Like I said, it is very similar in its general vibes to rigging 3D models. But it is an interesting process. It is also very interesting to watch really talented artists and riggers make this kind of thing. I am not amongst those. This was this is work for hire. They did a good job. Okay. I'm just thinking of naming structures here at the moment. Well, we have an ad starting very shortly over on the Twitch side. So we're going to take this opportunity for a quick break. I will be back in a moment. And we're back. Useful to get up and move around now and again. Let's see who might be on one of the cameras so that we can move it around. Let's see, Mason getting a drink potentially there. This guy passing through. Ember's taking a nap. Let's see. I have 6 cats, Posh. The one on camera currently is Ember. The camera is very close. She is itty bitty. She is my second oldest cat currently, but she is by far the tiniest. And she's a sweetheart. Let's see. So your question, how do you do the 2D part? If you mean the movement, the kind of the pseudo 3D animation on top of the 2D is a combination of, well, it's you take variables from facial tracking. So like how far is the face left and right, where the eyes, eyebrows, head tilt, that kind of thing. You take those and you attach those values to various points in the model and the various parts of the art. So the back of the hair, the bangs of the hair, the ears, those kind of things are all output variables effectively. Like if, you know, the eyes move in this fashion, move the ears. That's what goes into the rigging. Like when I turn the 2D image that represents the heart and the back of the chest, those slide around to create that perspective effect. Yep, Posh, it's live 2D animation, even like the 3D variants. At this point, there are price ranges kind of across the board. I would say kind of the sky's the limit. There are some that are amazingly complex and very, very impressive, like visually. And there are things that can be much, much, much cheaper. People looking into it, I always tell them, look into, you know, the still art kind of stuff first. Okay. So our root node type, okay, this is... folder. Class, and this will be a... With my luck, there's going to be a baked-in library for this, but we are going to make it ourselves regardless. Thank you, Mio. I'm happy with how it turned out. Again, the studio behind this model is Animashit Studio. They do decent stuff. They have kind of a range of options. Stay hydrated. What sort of tea you making, Posh? Calling them nodes is potentially a risk when we're dealing with Godot, but... nah. Execute might still be... Do I really want... I'm trying to type around a cat currently. Come on. Combination of black and green. I've never been a fan of bitter. I know, very American, but... 6 cats, Posh. Oldest cat is Sky. He is currently on my lap. Then Ember, who is on camera. Then there is... I'm trying to remember specifically here. Well, now I can't remember if it was Sammy and then Mason and Sherbet, or Mason and Sherbet and then Sammy. Okay, no, it was Mason and Sherbet, then Sammy. So the tan and white cats are Mason and Sherbet. Then Sammy is a tuxedo. And then Molly, who is kind of brindled with a white underbelly. Kind of stripy with a white underbelly. I've had more cats. I have had fewer cats. You can see some of the other cats that have been part of the family in older content. Shameless and seamless plug, I have older content on YouTube that you can watch. Well, I appreciate the sentiment, Meow. I do. Okay, we don't want this to be an integer. Really, all we want out of a decision node is the ability to run it and get a result. What are you going to do, Sky? Hey, Scribble. Welcome. Excuse me. I try to mute when I cough so that I don't deafen everybody. Come on, Sky. Make up your mind. Mm-hmm. Sky is a domestic long hair. He is a big fluffy boy. He is one of my 2 troublemakers. The other is Molly at this point. Hard to tell which is worse. So the kind of the story, as far as Sky is concerned, is very quickly assessing whether he wants attention or he wants something. So, like, if he wants food, kind of thing. The way he approaches it is very similar. He will approach and he will meow or something like that. Now, if he wants attention, he'll usually get closer. That kind of thing. Like, he will come up right near my mouse and will sit there. He will put his paws right within a couple of inches of the mouse, and usually that means he wants chin scratches. If he doesn't get chin scratches, he will start trying to grab at the computer mouse. And when he does that, he pulls it around and he clicks on it. Which has resulted in fun things like him deleting entire documents and the like. If he feels like he's being ignored too much, then we proceed to the next level of antagonism here, where oftentimes he will be near something, and he will meow. He has a particular range of vocalization, but he will meow for attention. The trick is determining what he's up to without making eye contact. Because as soon as you make eye contact, that's when he's going to do something. That's when he's going to knock something off of a shelf. It is very much a look what you made me do kind of thing. And you can see that he's actually upset if it doesn't make a noise when it hits the ground. If it bounces off like a shelf below such that it doesn't like impact sufficiently, he will follow it to knock it further down. That is I want you to give me something and you're not. That is Sky. Molly just gets into stuff. She tries to pull like storage totes off walls, that kind of thing. She's just a troublemaker. For the most part, as far as the stream is concerned, you're primarily going to see them napping. Every now and then you might see them running by, but let me see here. The primary area that you might see them traversing is where Sammy is. In the widescreen format, it is lower left. In the tall format, it is third from the top on the right. That is what I call the play area. Again, Sammy is visible in the little plastic rectangle there. There's a blacked out portion, which is a TV screen. And that is playing an infinite loop of like a wilderness stream, like birds at a bird feeder kind of thing. Sherbet and Ember love that. Ember is normally a kind of docile, sleepy cat. She likes hugs and whatnot. But when particular types of animals appear close enough to her on that screen, she goes wild. You just hear her drumming on the screen trying to kill it. Sherbet is more active than her in general, but does not have the ferocity of trying to get the thing on the screen. But that's the play area. Generally, they go through there when they're running around. Sammy has gone up to the cat tree. When she jumped off camera, there is... So that tree is kind of behind me on the left. The area that she jumped to was a sort of canvas bridge that leads down to the desk where Ember is. Unclear where she went, because she went from the tree to the bridge, and then I think she hopped back down the tree. Scribbles, I think the most cats I've ever had at one time was 8. It was very brief. Right around that time was when Mason and Sherbet were adopted, and 2 of the other cats got very sick. Several of them got very sick in short order, which was unfortunate. Posh, one of my cats, Rorschach, who was a big tuxedo. He was he was a stocky boy. Like, he was a rectangle of muscle. But he was also just the gentlest guy. Very placid, very friendly. If one of the other so there was a period where I was they were cohabitating with another family's cats, and it was very definitely they were two different groups. It was like two different gangs of cats, and the other group would pick on a couple of them. Rorschach, again, big, gentle softy, but if he witnessed one of my group of cats getting pushed around by the other group, it went from big softy to like panther, the way he would move towards them. That full, like, liquid stalk. He would have nothing of them, and once that started happening, he became the bully. He would be driving them off. But it's when he wasn't doing that, there was a particular, it was like a braided felt cord. And whenever he was upset, he would grab that and drag it around like a comfort toy and meow softly. It was very sweet and sad. Well, that's unfortunate, Scribbles. Hopefully, I mean, if it was recent, hopefully they will be found. If not, that is unfortunate. Hello, Dark. Just, it's weird. Why would that be held for review? Can be tricky. I mean, it's one of those that being observant and watching around, as well as being observant and watching around, because cats will often have a territory and they're willing to return. If they get driven away, they might have difficulty finding it. So it's that ranging around and keeping your eyes open sort of thing. Dark, it's going pretty well. It's been a chat-heavy stream, and that's good. We try to keep it casual here. That's why I tend to choose games where I have an opportunity to just stop and talk when we do gaming. There are exceptions. I do like a game like Monster Hunter and similar, but we play a lot of like detective and narrative games and whatnot that are largely me reading the screen. Which means I can read the different screen, which has chat on it. Yep, it's... You can get odd circumstances. I mean, just with a lot of cases, it's like, like people. There are particular, like, appearance combos that happen on the regular. But, like, Ember there is... She's a diluted calico. Calico is already a predominantly, like, female pattern, and diluted is another pattern of calico. Orange cats are predominantly male. People talk about orange cats as if that's a whole, like... as if it's a breed. I mean, breeds of animals are already kind of a artificial concept. But they talk about orange cats like it's a breed, but it's really just a bit of genetics that is predominantly male cats. It can still be female cats as well. Just like it's fantastically rare, but male cats can be calico. Cats can be... properly caring for a lot of cats is there are chores involved. Lots of chores involved. Hello, is it Jose or something else there? Welcome either way, but let me know if there's a particular way that you want me to try to pronounce your handle. I can't guarantee that I will remember, but you know, it is especially difficult if the handle does not match what is presented on screen. But you know, I try if it comes up often enough. But yeah, with all pets, it's generally view them as individuals and learn their personalities and idiosyncrasies, you know? Like the one on camera right now, Ember is really snuggly. Like she will come up and sit on my shoulder. Sherbet is very skittish and will run away if you approach him at even a slow speed. But when he wants attention, he will come and sit on my headrest, like right behind my head. Sammy greatly dislikes being picked up, but she has, since Molly arrived, taken to wanting to be on my left shoulder, which creates a bit of a conflict between Ember and Sammy sometimes, because Ember hates getting bumped by the other cats. But when Sammy wants attention, Sammy is a muscly cat. She does not care if Ember tries to get in her way. If Ember were as big as some of the other cats, she would rule the roost. Well, thank you, Scribble. I appreciate it. Both the compliment and the subscription. Ember is, I said, Ember is a friendly cat, but she's very, you know, I want my personal space now and again. Because she's friendly, she puts up with the other cats a lot more than some of them put up with the other cats. So every now and then you'll see like Sky or Molly or even Sherbet come over to where she is, like that's her favorite spot, and just kind of lay on her. Use her as a pillow, and Ember will put up with that for quite a while. But you can see when she's done with them, because she will get hissy and take a swing. But she is tiny. She is smaller than all of them by a noticeable margin. So she can be bullied out of the way, which is why she's generally non-confrontational. Yeah, she doesn't try to shove in like the other cats will. That is a reason that I have a third food dish that I will put a little food into to call her over, so that she can get some food without having to wait for all of the others to be done. But that's the kind of thing that you got to pay attention to. That is cute. That is cute. Since we're on cat facts. Well, I appreciate it, Neil. I do. One of the things is that aside from the kind of the shouted meow, which is what you generally hear out of like hungry kittens, most vocalization that cats make is targeted at humans. As far as cat-to-cat communication, aside from like a hiss, it's mostly like body language. So when a cat meows at you, they're talking to you. But because of that, it's each cat often learns their own way of talking to you. You can see, like, kittens that grow up together will often talk to you in a particular fashion. When new cats are introduced, you can get circumstances where they will communicate completely differently, or they will start to communicate like the others. In this case, for mine, Mason was a very quiet cat. Like, you could hardly hear him make any noise. But as soon as Molly joined, Mason got louder. Like, he made it much more apparent when he wanted attention. Well, hey there, Pixel. We are discussing the cats currently. Like I mentioned, that's Ember on camera right now. Yeah, Sammy is a just yell at you cat. She has a very loud voice, and for the most part, she just shouts at you. Ember trills. Just a wide variety of like tone and length of trill. Sky has a lot of different vocalizations he will do. Ember and Mason just have kind of like it's kind of like meh. It's really quiet. And Molly has kind of a plaintive kind of a mew kind of sound, but it's a little fainter than that. She kind of cries very faintly. But yeah, cats especially, it's recognizing cats are actually very social animals. In the wild, they tend to live with social groups. Like packs of dogs are generally family units. Packs of cats will have that, but it is usually like mixed individuals. They're kind of like they are like little colonies. And they do socialize. So a lot of people end up getting a cat because it's like, oh, they're very independent animals, and it's recognizing which ones want to get attention in which ways. Well, welcome over to the Twitch side, Grim. Hello, Sammy. Yeah. Sammy is deciding if she wants attention. Are you going to sit with me or no? Sammy is real touchy about being like picked up or held, with one exception now. Prior to Molly joining the family, she's blocking half my camera, so the model tracking is a little off. Prior to Molly joining the family, she was, for the most part, an arm's reach cat. Like, you may pet me and scratch my head, but do not touch me beyond that kind of cat. But now she has taken to trying to sit on my left shoulder. Grim, I have 6 cats. Yeah, pets are often a very happy experience, but there is also the period where it is a lesson in mortality. I tell folks there is a shelf behind me on the right. It is a distance behind me on the right. And the shelf has to be there, and it's important to me that it's there, but I generally don't look at that shelf because that's where the little memorials to my past cats are. Like, the memories are happy, but also the memory is sad. Like I said, a lesson in mortality, you know. The little group of memento mori behind me. But a lot of it is, you know, doing what you can to, especially with an older pet, to make them comfortable, to keep them happy, that sort of thing. My first two cats were a pair of Maine Coon brothers. They were big boys. Though comically, well, perhaps comically, despite being enormous cats, they were actually on the lightweight side. They took after their grandfather in size. That were so, like, before Tom got chubby, the lighter weight of the two, he was about 19 pounds. His brother Bob was a little bit bigger than that. He was over 20 pounds early on, like once he hit adulthood. But it was like 20 pounds of muscle. He was a big guy. But Bob was a coward. Like, any sort of loud noise or sudden movement completely terrified him. So he would often need a lot of comforting. That too is unfortunate, Lewis, or Scribbles, I should say. One of the things I will often bring up: all of my cats are indoors only. They never go outside. There are windows for them to see things. I do what I can to give them lots of, like, stimulation and whatnot, but they never go outside, both for the risk of them getting lost, for them getting hurt. Any number of things is a bigger surface. Yeah. Pets can be clever in the worst ways. Okay. Problem, let's see, public. Nothing, not nothing. For those curious, this is our game development project that we're working on today, very slowly. We are on day 181 as far as the number of streams that we have had that have involved working on the project. that generally means you can generally assume maybe like 1 to 2 hours of effort put into the code each time we stream it. We do a bit of work offline, but it's slow going as a result. Let's see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 visible. Molly is down below my feet. So, let's see. Sammy is being a little bit of an ink blot on the lower right there for the widescreen folks. She is dark black on a glossy black surface. Mason's on the bed. Ember's across from my keyboard. Sky is across from my mouse. And you can just see Sherbet in the play area near the air hockey table, like near its upper left corner. He's just hanging out. It's unclear whether he's looking at the screen or not. Nothing. We have, we call it, I'm going to say success equal to 1, failure is equal to 2, and busy, we'll call it working. There we go. Hey, Rex. Welcome, welcome. Okay, so by default, a decision node will have execute. And we will get a result back from execute. It will be nothing happened, something happened and it was a success, something happened and it was a failure. Or it's working on something, like it's still doing stuff. You recall seeing my streams from way back, Scribble? On Pixel, so you have 3 cats, but 1 is mean. Yeah, that is something to watch out for. Is sometimes they're not going to get along, and you need to figure out a way to make sure that they don't become a stress factor for each other. I have seen whether it's because like another new cat was introduced and changed the social dynamic, or that just individuals don't get along, is sometimes it requires greater intervention and monitoring, you know? That is pretty bad, Mio. Definitely, follow doctor's instructions as they come. I mean, in general, that's kind of the way that you should operate, is if a doctor expresses concern about something and gives a suggestion, probably a good idea. Okay, okay, okay. Scribbles, yes. Generally, that is a that is generally an inside the body substance. If your insides are outside, then you got a problem. Rule of thumb. Um, Actually, I don't know how much of the origin of rule of thumb is urban legend versus real. Every now and then I get distracted by sayings and like word origins. Now I'm curious. Let's see. Looking up the rule of thumb as far as its origin. So the common and perhaps concerning origin of rule of thumb is fiction. There's no like hard basis for it being a real thing. Yeah. Its exact origins are uncertain, but it is not the the version associated with domestic violence. If that's directed at me, Scribble, the U.S. Peril, no, not talking about Rule of Rose, but that was an interesting game. Gameplay wise, like actual playing the game, not so great. But setting and like imagery and vibes, it was really neat. Okay, so now we need a. Have I been a bit sick? To my understanding, uh, setting aside the mental side of things, uh, apparently I have got some sort of like late onset asthma or a similar thing, which is why the coughing. So for the most part, if I have to mute myself or if I forget to, please forgive the coughing. That is pretty much part of my existence now, which is super fun. Um, on the plus side, a recent secondary sickness upgraded my cough from hacking cough to wheezing cough. It's kind of a side grade, really, but I prefer the wheezy one. You know, small victories and whatnot. Okay. I think with a lot of things in life, there is a degree of, I don't want to say silver lining or finding the positive, because not everything can be viewed in a positive light, but finding a good way to make it an acceptable part of your daily life. You know, is there a way that I can cope with this that isn't a destructive aspect on my mental and physical well-being? It's not always a possibility, but even dark humor can help sometimes. You know, you've got to be able to survive your circumstance, and mental health is part of that. If it stays a destructive drain on your life in its entirety, it becomes a compounding thing, you know? Making sure I'm not missing too much in chat. Have I ever been challenged by a stranger to do backflips for money? No. I sadly, any sort of acrobatics are definitely beyond me. Break like glass. Need to preserve what function I got, you know? What do we call this one? Okay, we're going to call you a priority node. We'll start with a group node. In a group node, it extends a decision node. So we have a collection of nodes, and we need an ordered list of them. So we have... I don't really want to make these public, but frankly, it's okay that they are. So so my initial, like, when I started programming, we were at the tail end, like the very tail end of, you know, only functional programming. Object-oriented was pretty much on ascendant. So it was already being practiced. It was the way things were going to be done going forward. It was the shiny. And part of object-oriented at the time was full encapsulation. So interior data was not exposed at all. Part of the difficulty with that is when we get into testing. Because if there is interior data that I want to test from a unit test perspective, I need to be able to make sure that I can access that. Some of that is going to be how the testing harness is constructed, but if the testing harness has to alter the classes too much, it can distort the test. Yeah, we'll burn that bridge once we cross it. Oh, I have heard a couple of incidents of people trying to name their newborn after some sort of popular media. And for the sake of the child, I am pleased to hear when one of the parents or like a medical professional or something intervenes and says, no, don't do that. The classic example was, I believe, a Japanese couple trying to name their child Pikachu. To some extent, I feel like Master Chief, like, beats that. I know Patricia, at least in some periods of time, was a gender neutral name. There's another one. There are a couple like that, at least in the US, the full name is often treated as a feminine name, but the abbreviated names are often treated as, are often used as a masculine name. So, like Sam is often like, just being named Sam is often a masculine one, but the full, like the unabbreviated one, which often it's not an abbreviation like the name is Sam, but the unabbreviated Samantha is not considered a masculine name. Yeah, Peril, if for no other reason, and there are piles of reasons when it comes to like government documents or any sort of like publications or things like that, where you could get like legal entanglement issues with names that fall into like trademarks and copyrights and whatnot for children. There's also just, think of the kid, you know? Like, this is a kid that's gonna have to grow up with that name. Pray, when you name your kid after a video game character, that is a genre of game that the child likes, but that also does not become unpopular in their peer group. Hello, Mab. Is it Mabdo? That sounds familiar. Anyhow, welcome nonetheless. I don't know if it's because I have encountered your screen handle before. Forgive me if I forget, folks, but my memory for names requires constant reinforcement a non-trivial amount of the time. I was recently told when I saw I saw a child and said, isn't that, so and so, and almost dying of laughter, I was informed, no, that's this other name. The one that you said was, that was like X years ago. Butterfly knives? Yeah, I've seen folks play with butterfly knives. It's like a very dangerous fidget spinner. Cat indeed, Shay. Cat indeed. That one is Ember. She is snoozing. She has passed and left my keyboard. So, she is near the escape key. That is actually not the first time I have heard that, Shay. I think first time on stream, though. The first time I heard it, it was in a context where I wasn't sure how to take it. It's like, do you mean that as a compliment? What's the matter, Sherbet? Huh? Sherbet is crying at me. It would seem that his food dish may not be sufficiently full. I use shallow food dishes because then they don't get that, all of the food is shoved up around the edge, so they still have like a full cup of food in there, but it seems empty to them. How do I construct ECS? The acronym is not ringing a bell. What do you mean? What do you mean, Mabdo? Entity component system architecture. I mean, data structure wise, however you want. Since like the actual variables and whatnot could be stored off however you like. As far as the visuals, though, if you're dealing with like default Godot, you'd probably have to have references. In this case, entity... Okay, so the entity is the object that represents a thing in the world. It contains as little data as possible, and is primarily the housing for... it is the one source of truth that the thing exists, and it is where the... let's call it the brain of the entity exists, like a reference to it. The visuals and the physics of the entity, like how does it collide and how does it look, are kept in separate entities elsewhere. But yeah, overlapping. If it weren't for the fact that the behavior was highly variable as far as entities are concerned. So the way things move around in the game world is, like I mentioned earlier in the stream, moment by moment, their entire kind of behavior pattern could change. There isn't a way that just given time and a starting position, I would be able to tell you where they are. Random numbers, interaction of other objects can wildly change their behavior. So just that being there removes the ability to just say, to just preserve it as a series of variables. But as far as the entity is concerned, as far as like what it exists as, they have an identifier, you know? And most objects in the game only refer to an entity as a place to throw messages. Put another way, I'm trying to keep everything as abstract as possible so that I don't have to worry about too much maintenance. Like this guy. So there's still stuff that I would prefer isn't part of the entity, but a lot of the guts of it rely on this. Like the size of the entity, like these are position variables. Height and position are position elements. This is the brains of the entity. I'm not really fond of this one. Put another way, there's a lot of stuff that I would like to actually go back and rip out of Entity, but Entity is actually one of the oldest objects in this whole data structure here. Yeah. So for the most part, the entity identifier is almost Mabdo. As far as the code is concerned, I could probably rip a couple of other elements off and sort of say, almost as far as the structure. But yeah, kind of in spirit. Because the visuals, Collider and Visual Key are completely separate systems. What the entity looks like and how it bumps into other things are independent of actually how it behaves. And independent of each other. What's your question, Scribble? Making them independent has proven wildly good, because while the core behavioral logic has got some accretion on it, the way that I render them and the way that physics interacts with them has changed wildly many times. Legally none, Scribbles. How far did I get into the game? We've gotten further. Oh, well, I have a build error. So things that may be different from last time, I don't know when you last saw it. We're going to see some of the things here. So we have some wall collision going on. We have new spawning logic. We have the concept of map loading, and we have the concept of essentially doors or teleport points. So this little red glowy dot here is a door. If I touch it, well, if I had collision on for the door, this is effectively an entry point. So if I start, the fact that I started here is because this room loaded at this position. It's a little south of 0. This door spawned here, and the player entered the room through this entry. It's not any different, but this blob right here is the reason that all of the other blobs appeared. Okay. If last time it was avoiding walls, we are... The thing we got stuck on is that... I found a flaw in the way that collision was happening, and resolving that part of the flaw revealed a big performance issue. And we got kind of mired in that. Because in order to do wall avoidance properly, we need some more breathing room for performance. But what we've run into is what we're doing is we're stepping back a pace here, and we're changing the way that we're doing the core flow of the game to give us some options for inserting different sequences in, let's call it. And we will get back to that in just a moment. And we're back. Okay. We don't really care about it being a queue, but we don't. It is effectively a queue. It's an ordered list. What, Scribbles? Ember has come to join me. Yeah, I think Sherbet's watching the screen. Sorry. Distracted by Ember. Oh, okay, yeah, Sherbet's watching the screen. I could hear him striking the acrylic there. It is there is a flat screen TV there, cheap little flat screen, with an acrylic kind of shield over the top of it, taped in place, so that they can't tear up the LCD. Because boy, they try. Hello, Rake. I assume the name ends in super, but there's a lot of other syllables there, so bear with me. We'll just use a list of decision node. I mean, it really should be protected. We'll figure something out later. Yep, C#. And hello, Dolphin. Hello. Did I lose an A there? Okay. Click, override, execute. What am I coding? I'm making a Bullet Heaven style game. We are currently working on some core flow program flow logic here. This is a bit of a rewrite of some of the flow here because I want to make it both more parsable but also more flexible. But the basic pattern of you are placed in a region on the map, enemies spawn, move towards you. If the enemies touch you, you lose health. Currently, you don't lose health if the enemies touch you because the enemies do not have an inflict harm effect attached to them. But you gain weapons and upgrades, and those weapons and upgrades change the behavior of weaponry. First target for publication, when we reach a point where that is viable, which is in the future, would be Steam. But it has no page yet because we're not even in alpha yet. This is kind of deep in the weeds dev territory here. We can see some of the anomalies of behavior in this. So we have a couple of them that you can watch just seem to be vibrating in place. That is because they have 3 movement patterns that may be in conflict. The little mice by default, when they're spawned, they pick a target and they lock onto that target. They try to home in on it with a turn radius. They can't, like, pivot on the spot. Then I've applied random motion, so they have a vector in a random direction that is also applied to them. And then we also move in a kind of an S curve, kind of a sine wave curve. So they're kind of bonkers. No idea on cost or anything like that. I'm not this is not expected to be like an XA's kind of title. You know, we're not shooting for like single A or something like that. I could, Mabdo. It's that the part of the gimmick of the game is that movement is dynamic. So, like, you know, let's get them going again. So right here, it's 3 a second splitting into 3. So the minute they fire, whenever the weapon is triggered, it goes 1, 2, 3 each second. And as soon as they're triggered, they have a behavior that says split in 3. But I can then add move in a zigzag. So after the by default, it says home in on a target. Move at 96 speed units and home in on a target. So that's what it's doing first. Second, it goes through these two. These two happen once, and then they stop doing anything. This is the next constant one. So after this movement is decided, this movement is calculated. Oh yeah, the blobs just move straight towards the player. When I'm making the enemies, they're not going to have this level of complex movement. For the most part, it's going to be either move towards the player or move exactly like this, you know? So, like, they appear on the right side of the screen and they move in wiggle patterns from right to left, you know? Because enemies don't need super complicated movement. All they need to do is touch the player, and they have accomplished their goal. But weapons, one of the core gimmicks of the game is going to be to make ever more complex and effective weapons. That is part of what we're trying to optimize, Mabdo. Like right now, as far as visual frames are concerned, so rendering frames, we're sitting at this type of motion that I've added is actually really expensive. We're sitting between 90 and 120, let's call it. But processing frames are also different. So the physics calculation is actually real expensive. So we're trying to optimize wherever possible with that. But it's so easy to get into the weeds on that. So last time we were on, one of the decisions that I made was to reduce the target number. So instead of going for wanting to hit 5 to 10,000 entities on screen, I reviewed that and said, you know what? It's 2 to 3. That's our target number for staying at 60 plus frames a second. If when we have 2 to 3,000 things visible, we are still at 60 to 100 plus 60 plus frames a second, that's plenty. We're good. We don't want it to precipitously tank after that point, but if it decays down as you get more and more entities after that, that's considered okay, as long as it never crashes. So I'll show you what what we're trying to do is code to allow the player to get so far out of control that it's really cool, but that the game does not crash as a result. Do I prefer pencils or pens? Well, I've never been a writing implement chewing type. Not generally how I fidget. For me, gel pens. I like gel pens. If not gel pen, then ballpoint pen. I don't like felt tip pens. Pencils are good, but I only use a pencil if I'm like sketching, you know. So this is what I call a calamity case. We are generating currently 3 to the 6th entities per second. All of them are moving in a relatively like expensive way. And currently on screen, we have about 7,000 things. That's game things, like code objects, there's at least like 20,000. Minimum. Because each of these is a sprite, all that kind of stuff, you know. So the game is not expected to move fast like this. But if the player actually had this, enemies cannot penetrate that. Like, this is what I refer to as the player has won. So the game should not crash, but the fact that it's going slow, so what? You win. So you can see part of the orbital logic here is that it is not just turn X degrees to accomplish a spiral. It is effectively it's not quite gravitation, but it's closer to that because they want to move at the code tries to make them move at a particular orbit, but if the target of the orbit moves, they're now outside of it and you get kind of an elliptical to it. But if now we remove all of this stuff, so now what should happen is that they just do 3 a second, moving in effectively a random direction because they have nothing to lock onto. It will take some time because about 10 simulation seconds have to pass for a bullet to go away. Or it has to get off screen, but orbital movement keeps them on screen. But they're starting to fade away. About 1,000 things is a big performance gate. Like, the difference between 1,000 and higher is like 30 frames. But now we're back to like 34 things on screen, and we're sitting at about 119 frames per second when Godot is capped at 120. So the overhead of like buffering pools and whatnot has cost us some extra frames because there's some kind of there's some Godot overhead that has been built up because of like visuals and physics. But yeah. here. The what I got? What is the entity ID? Right now, I think I've got it artificially capped at something like 20,000 entities active at any given time. Like, it won't create more than 20,000, just to keep it within reasonable limits, because I don't want to risk any sort of like overflows or anything like that. But for our entity ID, we're using a uint, so should be a 64-bit uint. Anywho, okay, so we have a decision node. Let's close everything else here. And we have a group node, which has a child in it. By default, do we even need a priority node? So there's two different types of group node in this case. Yes, Mabdo. There's two performance hitches. One is physics. We're having to do collision calculations on all of those things. We can truncate it to a great extent, but after a point, I'm still having to say all of these circles need to be checked against all of these circles. We can add in like trees and whatnot to limit them further, but you get enough things, and if they're in a small enough area, you still have to deal with the risk that every object on the screen could be simultaneously colliding with every other object. You know, optimizations can carry you, but the further you get towards worst case, the worse it gets. The other is behavior. So the simpler each bullet moves, the simpler the movement pattern, the cheaper it is. But the more complex it gets, the more expensive it gets. Do I expect in actual gameplay to see what we were seeing? No. But we want to make sure that the code holds on to it. Or that the code can handle everything as well as possible. Oh, we're actually not, is the thing. So we don't check the bullets against each other, but we still have to run collision and determine that they don't collide with each other. That is, these are bullets, ignore them. So if I have a pair of objects and these are bullets, I don't check them. So we do the mask check first, but that check still happens essentially. I'm sorry, the mask check still happens. Like I said, the game doesn't have any like formal listing or anything like that. It will probably be Steam as the first place. So we cull them down. Like I said, eventually what we're probably going to do is, one, have some tree partitioning. So break the objects down based on like spatial blocks so that we are checking fewer collision pairs. Go ahead and call it out, Scribbles. We do. So when I say the collision check, it's we have the physics aspect. So does it collide is the first expensive part. As far as processing the collision, yeah, that's just a signal. This entity collided with that one, it sends the collision message. Sorry, it does its collision logic to the target object. Ideally, we have, further collision. Like, stuff happens when they collide. Bullets do not collide with each other, so when we're running the collision check, if we get 2 bullets, we ignore it, and we don't register a collision. So no subsequent collisions happen. There's a lot of tuning we can do for that, but one of the core difficulties is just the sheer number of things that we have to deal with. Subdividing that and optimizing that is going to be a burden. That's part of why we're doing this little bit here, because we don't want to sit here and block the physics thread and thus the whole execution of the program while we're waiting for the physics process to get done. That will probably only take a tiny fraction of a second to finish. But if we sit and wait on it, it is a further burden to the program every time it happens. So we want to let it go a little bit. We want to sacrifice some amount of time, In that break, that async is currently messy, handling it just as part of the physics loop, as part of the physics process. So we want to let that break free. Especially complicating it is if we want to have the shaders able to report asynchronously, then those shaders need to be part of the rendering thread when they are created, so that they can then perform a callback into the method, into the calling entity, so that calling object, so that that object can be ready to report that physics is done. I think what we can do is say that a group node will report the most entangling result of all of the children. Because I think that's the simplest way. Now, I could also make this an abstract. Yeah, there's never going to be just a group node. Okay. Add an existing item, add class. Oh, we need to rename that. Yes. Have a priority decision node. Okay, so a group node is just a abstract parent that is just, it's effectively a tree. Like the start of a tree or a branch in a tree. priority nodes are report what the first one that doesn't do nothing did. Succeed, fail, or busy. A concurrent node, concurrent might not be a good name for it, is do all of these. Oh, I see chat going on. Let me catch up here. Scribbles, content targeting that kind of audience is not my thing. Let's see here, and hey, this is a Robloxian. This is a 2D game. Would I say I would never make it? It's a 2D game just because. There isn't really a reason that it is or isn't. Like a tangible reason. I just decided I wanted to do sprites. Is a group decision node. A Hello Neighbor-like game. Do you mean the original one where it was like explore the house with the guy being able to like catch you and throw you out kind of thing? How many times have you ever had to... Not a fan of hot Cheetos. Spicy Doritos, the ones that are kind of like red, heavy red, black into red pepper, I'm okay with, but that's kind of the limit of what I consider tasty spicy, you know? So this is public override execute. Okay, so this is decision node dot nothing. Loop form is equal to 0 is less than child nodes dot count plus plus, but additionally and nothing. Okay. So what we are doing here for a priority decision node, what it is going to do is it's going to iterate over it until it gets a result. Or it runs out of things to check. As soon as it gets a result, it is going to stop executing the nodes. Just so. I may need to have a variable that is passed in. My favorite YouTuber. Oh, I'm trying to remember the full name of the channel. There is a news commentator named Bell that I really enjoy the videos of. From a more comedic bent, some more news and Last Week Tonight are really good. Last Week Tonight is a collaborative thing. I'm sorry, Last Week Tonight is primarily John Oliver, and then Some More News is... It's a collaborative program, but I can't remember what Cody's last name is. But that on like the still informative but comedic, then like pure entertainment content is all over the place. .3D print, I mean, if you want to. Yeah, we might need to be able to pass a delta into these. But for now, yeah, we're going to need to be able to pass a delta in. I have tried 3D printing before, not anything of the complexity of this, but never had a lot of luck. You know, I haven't learned 3D rendering myself, and a lot of it comes down to use case and having the right filaments and whatnot when you're dealing with FDM. And I tried resin, but I just kept making a mess. The lower left screen is it's effectively a blown up, like scaled up 1080p security camera. They are not high resolution. They are not high frame rate. They are there to see kitty cats. The level of zoom is largely a indicator of what kind of pixelization you're going to get, and fast movement is also going to make them kind of crummy. Well, movement. Let's see. Sherbet has taken the shelf. Mason's getting a snack. Sammy is napping. Put the camera on her for a bit. Sky is distracted by a noise. There are likely to eventually Roblox. There are going to be probably Easter eggs all the way down. Part of the reason that I intend to make it so that there are things that make the game go out of control for the player, like, you know, there are way too many bullets or too big of explosions or something like that, is in itself a bit of an Easter egg, a bit of an inside baseball sort of thing. Back in the day, in the Noida playthrough days, the community had a term that we used called frames per minute. I'm sorry, minutes per frame. Haven't determined icons or anything like that for the game, and the graphics are still not final. We're not that far along, official. I do intend to make it so that the game does have random seeds, so like speed running and similar challenges are, I expect to be able to accommodate that kind of thing. No guarantees. That's not like a priority target, but I want to make it possible if we get to that point. For those interested, Discord link can be found through the link tree that is in video descriptions and Twitch bio. Yeah, I think we need execute to have a delta. Effectively, time since this last happened. Yeah. There we go. If you go through to the channel, the YouTube channel as well, in the links section of the main page, there should be links to the link tree that will lead you to things like Discord. Let's see. Game is unlikely to be free. I expect the game to be inexpensive. That is completely undecided, though. Given what we're talking about, it's not going to be like, we're not talking a AAA game here. Do I make games as a job? Not really. I have been a professional programmer, but not for games, and this is the first game I have ever set out to make. Okay, so for a priority node, we go through, and as soon as result is not nothing, we are going to break out of the loop and return. We need a reset mechanism as well. Okay, we'll put that up here. No name yet. The project title is just a working title. There is no guarantee that it will be anything like that when we're done. I've programmed a lot of things from websites for various purposes on down through like installed applications. It did a lot of stuff. A lot of different use cases, different platforms, that kind of stuff. Generally Windows oriented kind of things, or Windows facing. Do I even need a reset? I don't know that I actually need the reset, because this is not a state system. This is a... Sorry, this is not a system that remembers its state currently. If you do have a question or want to, like, make a statement or something like that, go ahead and do so. You don't need to call out or ask permission or something like that. You'll get a response just as easily if you make the statement. I am not any more or less likely to notice it either way. I will try not to miss it. Finally, huh? Finally, huh, Tass? That's a pretty tall print, Scribbles. Well, I think that's ultimately going to be a very good thing there, Tass. The circumstances of that apartment were not great. You got to go through the link, Roblox. The server kind of load in is dependent on going through the link. Beverage. Child, the execute doesn't do anything because that is an abstract. We go in here, we execute each one, we relay. Again, Twitch bio, video descriptions, as well as in the YouTube channel page off of the links that are there. Just verify that. Buttons, buttons, buttons. Yeah, in the About section of the Twitch bio is one of the links to the LinkTree. Yeah, there is a board dedicated to cat pictures. It's a LinkTree link. Oh, let's see. So we get to this one, it will be the first one, and then we have... Hello, Ember. Hello. Are you done attacking the TV screen? For now. So Ember will very aggressively attack the TV screen or watch it for a while. And then when she's done, she will often trot over and get attention for a bit. Maybe then after that, go nap for a bit and then loop back to the TV screen. That's right. Okay, so we have our priority node, which is whichever one is first. We're going to call you next one. We're going to say a concurrent. It's not really concurrent. That's spelled right. One hand typing, other hand keeping cat happy. There is a TV screen devoted to the cats wailing on it. That's why I clicked postpone the last time, Visual Studio. The one that is for the cats has an acrylic barrier over it. They can still, like... The vibrations will still reach the screen, but there's, you know, half a centimeter of hardened plastic-like substance between them and destroying the screen. Isn't that right? Yeah. Okay, so this is these. We'll at least get these in place tonight. That extends group decision node. And we have a public override execute. This one is a little fiddlier. So we have 3 tiers of result here. Hey there, Lunar. Let's see. Did you add the hard-to-find Gwent meets chess minigame that's secretly the only way to get the good ending yet? Not yet, Lunar. Not yet. If it's... I mean, if we're talking about mini games of that nature in a game, hard to find seems wildly unlikely. That kind of mini game in any sort of RPG is usually shoved right in your face repeatedly. That is an expectation, Roblox. You are expected to, what is the term? It is the honor system. If you are, say you are. If you aren't, say you aren't. And that will give you access to either read the main channel or to actively post to channels. It's for everybody's protection and well-being. And legal liability. If you click no, you have greatly restricted access to some of the boards. Okay, so we have fail, we have busy, we have success, we have nothing. I think in that order. So every decision node returns a result. Those results can be It does, Lunar, it does. It's always in order in this one, but the decision is what is more important is a A failure is going to be the most important return. If something fails, then that's what we need to know. Because a fail case is not a I did a thing. It's the difference between a fail and a success is not the game tried, like the enemy tried to take a swing and missed. It is usually going to be an error state. Something isn't working here. Success is something functioned. So you did a thing. Busy means you're in the process of doing a thing. So something in the node is actively working. So that's usually going to be we need to return to this. It's very similar in our current structure to success, but I think it's a higher priority because it is success with a caveat. Okay. How do we do? Because we want to execute each time. All of them need to run each time. And we don't want to assume anything about what the enumerated type is. So it is... We kind of need a switch here, but I hate that. I hate the idea of that. Well. For each... Sure. The black space is a very... The black space is a representation of the floor of a room. So the outer walls are not active, but the inner walls are. So the gray space is effectively a wall. The player ignores the walls currently. The enemies try to avoid walls while moving towards the player. The collision logic is not flawless. Enemies do have a random chance to essentially just push through a wall. And once they're inside the wall, they continue to ignore it. Again, lots of enemies move towards player, try to touch player. Player gets touched, they take damage. Run out of life, and you lose. Core gimmick, you have weapons with base behavior. You get upgrades that let you change the behavior of a weapon fundamentally, or just lightly. The basic one that I show is multiplying them. Yeah, Lunar. Essentially having the avoidance zone be bigger is the solution to that. I mean, doing is often the best way of learning, but you still have to be doing the learning too, you know? If you don't like the learning bit, then it doesn't really help to... The doing doesn't do much. So for each of the nodes, have this sub-result. We're just going to have an ugly if here. Else if and oh dear. If we already have a failure result, then we don't care. This is fiddly. And I'm sure there's an easy way to go about this that I'm just completely overlooking. But what would it be? Okay, so what we're doing here is we get a result, and we want this to be the priority list of them. If our result is a fail, we use fail. That will be what we return. If any of these have a fail result, the overall return is fail. And going through in priority order. So if they all return nothing, then the main one returns nothing. If the only return is a success, we'll return a success. If there isn't a fail, but there is a busy, it will be a busy return, regardless of anything else. Hey, Laura. Okay, so if the result is not decision node result dot fail. If it's already fail, we don't care about any of the other results. We're set. If Subresult is equal to fail. We set it to fail, and we're done. So it's already not fail. So then else if we're not already it's working. Then else if 0 scribbles 0. Roblox, the pattern would be to get to a point in development where it is ready for closed testing. Reach out to a limited set of people to do some basic testing and verify that core systems are functional, and that the general idea works. Then it would be looking into opening it up further and further as we go along. I mean, if you're talking semantics of what a tree is, I can't be sure. If you're talking about the common language use understanding of what a tree would be, then I'm sure. Because, I mean, you might be doing a everything is soup kind of meme, and I've discussed with folks before that, yes, funny, haha, meme, but that's not what language do. General advice, Scribbles, would be to consider if you're being too edgy, or if you are telling the internet too much about your current personal trauma or something like that. But I have personally not had an immediate issue with things you are saying. For reference, I would generally suggest, do not overshare. Like, we don't need PHI on the channel, or similar entities. And additionally, the core rule of the channel is don't be rude. That is, I feel like that's a good rule to follow in almost every circumstance, is just don't be rude. This has a bad code feel / smell. I don't like... There's something about this I don't like. But I'm not grasping how I might do it better, so we're in kind of good enough territory. Again, I want to make no assumptions about the order in the enum. So... All right. We shall leave on screen for a moment. Let's zoom a little bit. Hey, what, Neil? So what we're doing here, Tess, is we're navigating a depth-first tree. This particular type of node says it's going to call all of its children in order. It will not stop for any reason. It will iterate over them. And the result is a prioritization. I could make a static dictionary of current and result and say, this is what I have and this is what I got. What do I set it to? So you have like a pair is the key. That could work. And it would be less ugly than this. We could do it as a two-dimensional dictionary. That is true, Tess. If it is an invalid kit combo, that means something has gone terribly wrong. It makes for an initially ugly function because it's a permutation issue. Let me see here. Somebody was asking something here. Right. Somebody asked about joining the military. That is a decision that I think would be based entirely on personal circumstance. There are financial and educational benefits that can be positive. There are ethical considerations. Some people object to the very concept of some of the things that a soldier might have to do. there are potentially political circumstances, as well as kind of geographic ones. It is one of those things that I think is either you know that you really want to, or you should probably talk with folks directly in your life. It's not necessarily the greatest thing to reach out to the internet for an answer on that, because agendas are going to get involved, you know? You will likely face isms. Yeah, I think this is a good opportunity for a stopping spot, because this is not a complicated thing. This is one of those, I want to do it right, and it will bother me if I don't do it in a way that feels right. It's not a functionally right, it's a feels right. That is definitely a thing that you learn after coding for a while, you know? Okay, buttons and buttons and buttons. There we go. Well, I hope you all had a good time with us today. This was productive. We had a lot of good chat. We did some coding. We at least got the skeleton that I was thinking of rolling. We still got a ways to go, which is positive. I mean, hey, content. But that gives us the ideas for our next coding session. Later in the week, I do want to have another session of Urban Myth Dissolution Center. I want to keep moving with that. That one's fun. And I do want to add another one in. I'm not sure. Not sure how or what else we'll add. Uncertain. Uncertain. Unsure Robloxian. I would have to have. Let's see. Are you going to release an early access playtest? When we get to a point where we would make that sort of decision, Robloxian, that is something that I would be interested in doing an open beta with crowdfunding effectively is, I think, something that can be done very positively. The decision would actually be dealing with the stigma of early access. Steam users don't seem to be able to read, let's put it that way. Never heard of Game Jolt? Steam is our first target. Everything after that, we'll see. But yes, we will be putting some other game on the schedule. Don't know what it's going to be. We will see. Hopefully I'll get it posted in the near future. But with all that said, I hope you like what you saw so far. I'm sorry. Brain is stopped. Petting cat. If you like what you saw and would like to see more, folks, remember to like, follow, subscribe, comment. Most of those buttons down there are good things, and they help the channel, so I would appreciate it if you press them. If you'd like to consider financially supporting the channel, you can do so through platform-specific means, as well as some other options that are available through the link tree that can be found in the video description in bio on Twitch. Oh man, my brain is fried today. Oh, but with all that said, I hope the rest of your day is good, folks, and I will see you next time.